Okay, so welcome to our little interview series. And today we are in talk with Rekha Kurup, one of the most intuitive and grounded people I have been in association with. All her work comes from deep inner guidance, and she is the founder of She Stands Tall project, where she has taken over empowering and uplifting women and working with feminine energies with the earth, the moon, and the womb cycles. And it's wonderful how she brings all these energies to light in context with human emotions and human healing, healing of the collective unconscious also. She has also taken yoga as a way of life. So welcome, Rekha, and I'm sure you're going to complete a little bit more of your introduction that I have missed.
Thank you so much, Purva, for this opportunity. Not really. I see myself as a seeker. So I'm a student. I feel every day I'm learning and growing. And I think from the time I have been a kid,
Right,
I think just being in this body, in this world, has been of the deepest fascination to me. And
right.
through life, yeah, so it's about how do you fully show up in this life. So for that inquiry has led me through many gateways and many ups and downs and many things,
Yeah.
but I see myself as a seeker and as a student
Okay.
and a devotee more than anything else, more than a teacher or anything.
Right.
So that's my core is devotion to life.
Hmm.
Just to this, yeah. That's the
Yeah.
yeah.
Great. So I'd like to know what you really studied, because it's very interesting when we see your work, and when a lot of relics of what you've studied comes across. So and I'm sure this is already a very rare subject that people study of these things, and transpersonal psychology and stuff like this. So I
Yeah.
keep wondering, back then when you must have studied and must have actually found your calling. So I keep wondering, it must be a more rare subject back then than now. So can you tell us a little about what your journey was like when you were pursuing your education and all of that?
So see, my education way, I'm an engineer. Yeah. So
Okay.
so that was I wrote the CET entrance exam. I was in merit. I got into engineering. I'd studied 4 years of engineering. Then I have worked 10 years in IT. And during that time, I was in Silicon Valley, California. I lived there for a long time. Uh, and after 10 years, I shifted that. I was into nonprofit. I was into yoga and meditation. I had a spiritual path. I mean, I became an out of living teacher. And during all these, one of the most intriguing things for me was body and sexuality and being a woman. I
Right.
felt that really nobody had taught me to be in this body, like owning I realized there's so much shame had come into my body, and the
Right.
sort of narratives that I knew how to be a human being very well. I
Right.
even knew how to be a man, but I really didn't know to really what does it mean? What is the purpose of my vagina, my uterus, my womb, my breasts,
Right.
motherhood, and all these things. And I realized that I was so different. When you're in a group, when you're with men, your way of seeing things and the way you feel is so different. And it's not
Right.
even the cognition, it's something beyond. And you can connect to women, and sometimes you don't have to speak, and there is a resonance. And I am always
Right.
fascinated by menstruation and the synchrony. And I think my own life journey, and maybe even a collapse of my own life, my own marriage, and all those things kind of took me to the doorstep of transpersonal psychology and women's spirituality. So in
Okay.
US, the Bay Area where I was, there's a school called Institute of Transpersonal Psychology,
Okay.
and they have a program called Women's Spirituality. Yeah,
Hmm.
which is the foundation is transpersonal psychology, and the whole women's spirituality is integrated into that. And it was a 2-year master's MA program. and it was the teachers were crones who have been part of the women's spirituality movement in the US, and it was, for me, that was a huge beginning of journey. And it was just before 2 years before I was 40, so I knew that 40 was some gateway that I, by then, I need to know something about me being a
Okay.
woman. And I
Right.
think that journey, yeah, and from there, I mean, so many, trainings that you become part of. And since then, even during that time, so many things I became part of. I got the opportunity to be with elders from, indigenous cultures, and I presented conferences where they were Aboriginal grandmothers, and bringing back my own knowing of my own grandparents and my own life, my parents' life. My parents
Right.
were raised in a village culture. So I think that
Mm-hmm.
women's spirituality masters also got, my whole research was on matrilineality and my own matriarchal inheritance. I come from the Nair
Mm-hmm.
community. It was for a
Okay.
long time. Their origin is matriarchy, is matrilineal, yeah, matrifocal, very women and daughter center. Daughter inherits
Mm-hmm.
property. The land was to the daughters. Marriages
Right.
did not really exist as we know today, even two
Right.
generations ago. So, and there was a lot of sexuality. Sexually, women had a lot of freedom. The women were a lot in their body. So I think a lot of these things,
Mm-hmm.
all that, I think, began my journey and my own exploration. And I think it is one of the, still is one of the most arduous or most intense journeys of my life, because I think everything that I learned till then, even about
Mm.
my own culture, about India, Hinduism, so many things I have
Right.
to look at it differently now and find the what was the original, go there. And so it's never easy. Masks come
Yeah.
out. And so yeah, so then I did expressive arts therapy. I mean, so then, then there's so many. Now I'm a family system constellation facilitator, and I
Right.
do emotional freedom technique. I mean, so there are a lot of things since then, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I think now I think core is integration, because I feel we do workshops, but we don't know how to integrate. So my whole life, I think last couple of years, have been about integrating everything. Spirituality, what does it mean? How do you live it in this
Right.
body, and not in this experience, but really here.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think
Right.
that's been my journey. So right now yeah, as I'm going into this workshop free, it's not just leading, but it's also for me. I'm done with attend trainings and workshops in some ways. Integration
Yeah.
is very important.
Right. Yeah.
Integration. So that's where I'm moving into. Yeah.
So tell us something about your project. I mean, even the name is so amazing. She stands tall. So, of course, theoretically, we know when we follow you on Facebook that it is about empowering women and, bringing out that feminine voice, owning your own sexuality. Yes. But, I'd just like to know a little bit more about, like you said, integration. So, how exactly is that you are walking through that journey and that process of helping women?
So if you look at the mission of She Stands Tall project, the way it started, when I joined the Women's Spirituality program, the first thing immediately as I joined the program, what I did was I started leading women's circles.
Okay.
And the main idea was, and so the mission of the work is actually not women empowerment, none of that. It was from the very beginning, it was very clear. It was to create open, safe, sacred spaces that
Hmm.
allow you to be who you are and to speak about things that you never speak about. That you
Right.
feel safe enough in a non judgmental environment to be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as a woman in the body, because I realize that women, even when women are hanging out, you might be having your kitty parties and you're having a drink outside at clubs, because it's all become so much part of this new movement of being woman.
Right.
You're never ready to show your vulnerability.
Yeah.
Because if you think of
Hmm.
a villain or a vamp, it's a woman only you're thinking as that. You're not thinking of a man.
Right.
You still
Yeah.
mistrustful about a woman. And that was never my experience of my life. I always, so for me, I think to create that space where women can shed their masks even briefly and allow each other to be seen, to know that we are more in this together. We are, we have all compromised so much. And when we speak about it, we realize that we are all in this together, and versus being separate, in our nuclear worlds or nuclear families, where we make the husband like the most, the very patriarchal constructs. We don't even realize how we see a
Right.
woman, another woman, as the vamp, or, the
Yeah.
problem. That
Yeah.
way we see ourselves as the problem. So the whole idea She Stands Tall project came from that. And it is also inspired, of course, my program. In my program, my women's spirituality masters, and the whole core foundation of the school itself was about the integration of the physical, the emotional, the psychological, relational, spiritual, and creative. So these
Okay.
6 aspects. So creativity, because I realized that I had not allowed myself to completely, like you see this wall right now, I did it. I don't care
Yeah.
whether anyone likes it. These my walls. I don't care about making a mistake. So, that fearless creative impulse that we all have, and
Yeah.
especially women, it's such a different way of being creative. And so these different aspects of being woman, and to stand tall in that. So that's
Hmm.
where this journey began. Especially my journey began with sexuality, because that's where I felt that I had not fully given myself fully permission to embrace my sexuality and my body.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I
Absolutely.
think
I relate
that
to
is,
that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so that's what the
Yeah.
circle was in the beginning. We were talking about all these things, that, and
Mm-hmm.
ritual, to bring ritual back. So ritual, if you attend any of my workshops or my circles, you'll see ritual is a huge part of it. Ritual and ceremony. How do you meet in ceremony? How do you meet in ritual? And where does this ritual word come from? And, because we all have, in some ways, of course, I mean, we both are sitting here, we come from India, right? I'm assuming, right? Purva, you're from India
Yeah.
as well,
Yeah.
right?
I'm from India. Yes.
Yeah. So I
Absolutely.
mean, culturally, the Hindu or whatever that word, that spirituality, ritual is very much part of it. But
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
times it has also restricted us. So we discard ritual, but then we also lose
Mm-hmm.
something. Because ritual comes from menstruation. The root word is ritu, which means blood, woman's blood. So, so it's like this, so there's so many interconnections that amaze me about being a
Right.
woman. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's,
It's amazing, because when you talk about Indians and you talk about the Vedic science, I feel we have disconnected from the core essence of it, and we're actually
yeah,
practicing something that's almost null and void today. I mean, in the name
yeah,
of following traditions or performing rituals, I think we've so moved. I don't know. I think it's become something of our own whims and fancy right now, today, in context of today. And I feel this gap, this huge gap in generations when they question and they want to really know what they're following, versus our inability in embodying that essence anymore. So it really is full of trauma for me. That experience, that
yeah,
child who's asking,
right,
or that experience as a woman also being in a family and not knowing what we're doing. So
yeah,
I don't know. So whenever I find people speaking about it, it's like this need to hold on to them and like seek answers through them.
yeah,
So yeah, it's very it's ironic, because obviously my answers, I'll be only able to answer them, and only I can seek them.
yeah,
But this feeling is very difficult. This phase is very tough for this generation
yeah,
today. So,
yes.
do you also speak about this and cover this in your work somewhere? Because I have seen a lot of your posts speaking about a lot of native Indian, beautiful traditions and rituals, and sometimes covering all of those things.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
with the
mean,
moon energies, I think. I think with the moon energies,
yeah,
I think. Yeah.
right? And it's not even native Indian, it is very Indian. The
Right.
work that I do is not from the native
Ancient.
Indian, because I don't believe in that. I believe that going into my ancestry, and I feel as the world has done enough of that, where we take
Yeah.
on others, and so they have paid a huge price for that, and we are paying a huge
Mm.
price because now somebody else speaks about our own ancestry. And
Right.
even in India, when I speak, it's not Vedic that I'm talking about. That's a completely different thing. I'm talking about the very earth based rituals, like today, if I just give an example of the Nair community from Kerala. Yeah. Today it has become very Hindu and very Vedic, but
Okay.
that is not the I knew as a child. Even my mom didn't know any of
Right.
that. We did not grow up speaking Sanskrit or Sanskrit chants. That was the upper caste. And I'm not saying any of this. uh, I've done so much integration work, so when I say Brahmin, I'm not like, oh, that there's nothing like that. I'm speaking in that purity of what the essence was. Okay. So
Mm.
the earth, we had sacred groves, we had kavu, we used to call it. And even now in Kerala there are kavu. There was no temple structure in the old Kerala. It was when the Nambudhiris came, they brought temple culture. We did not have. And even the Jainism
Right.
and Buddhism, when it came, it brought. Before that they were just sacred groves. It
Mm-hmm.
was across India, it was like that. So any area which was, and the tribes, the people of the land, they managed this. And the god did not have a shape, it was a stone. So I still have places like our
Right.
ancestral home still has these rituals and these places where light lamp is lit. So god is not somebody very man or a woman. It might just be a stone or a snake. Snake is a huge
Wow.
part of growing up in Kerala.
Yeah.
Snake worship and groves are very much, because snake, in the ecosystem of life, when the snakes disappear, the entire ecological balance disappears. So snake is a very key part of the maintaining ecosystem and ecological balance of all life. So snake, and where snake is, there's so many other life are there. Even sacred plants come where snakes are reside. So these
Okay.
areas were really protected,
Wow.
and not everybody could go there, and the elders would go there, and herbs were there. So there are still places like that in Kerala, enough
Mm-hmm.
places like that. And it did not have any caste to it. Anybody could go to a cow, a menstruating woman could go to a cow. So,
Right.
so when I speak about earth based and the moon, like in Kerala, when I grew up, nobody ever celebrated my English birthday. My
Okay.
parents never did. They only used my nakshatras. So in
Right.
Kerala,
Right.
although you are from that really Kerala culture and not a very modern English speaking, if your
Mm-hmm.
parents were raised like that, you only
Right.
celebrate your birthday based on your moon day. And the
Yeah.
nakshatra
Yeah.
and the moon coming together, that day is when your birthday is. So your birthday is changing every time. And
Yeah.
and this is part of all of India, but we have tuned out of it. And all
Yeah.
our food, so my parents grew in that culture. They were not raised in concrete homes. They grew up in gobar, gobar
Mm.
and mud homes, where they used to put gobar. It was my mom's role, gobar and mud mixed. So they slept on those kind of thatched
Right.
coconut leaf home. They never wore shoes or chappals. My mom's
Right.
first chappal was when she completed high school. So it's a different generation, right? So food practices, everything was very close to nature, seasons, rhythm. And every home had a
Mm-hmm.
dark room where when a woman bled, she would go there, or when a woman birthed in that room. And in these
Mm-hmm.
old homes of Kerala's traditional construction, it's called Tarvade homes, these rooms are still existing. I mean, today we people have find those are, we need modern concrete homes, so they destroy everything. But, so our own land, just if you go just a little back, at least Kerala, because I think the ascent of patriarchy is not, it's a Britishers also reached Kerala at the end. Because
Okay.
of the Western Ghats, it was very difficult to come to Kerala. So Kerala's most access was through the ocean. So
Okay.
Kerala had connection to Greece and Mediterranean and Persia, and it was having its own world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Saint Francis came immediately after, Jesus as a disciple. He came first to Kerala. He could just come through the ocean.
Okay.
So Mughals, many of the Mughals came, but they were not the people who went around changing or wanting to rule, but they were people who did business. So Kerala already had a very different culture, which was not so much
Mm-hmm.
based in the Vedic Hindu that I see across India today. I was not raised into that. I love it. It's part of my life. It informs a lot of,
Yeah.
because it's very powerful, very refined. There doesn't exist a
Mm-hmm.
system like that in the world. But to
Yeah.
get there, I had also to move through a lot of trauma, because first thing you encounter, like you said,
Yeah.
you have to decolonize our rituals. We have to explore trauma in them, because they've also caused us trauma. So an
Yeah.
Indian doing
Yeah.
yoga is very different from a white person doing yoga, because yoga also
Yeah.
has trauma for us. For many people were restricted from doing it. They did not have access to it in the name of caste, and some held on. And
Oh,
yeah, of course,
right.
yoga was not.
Yeah.
Even today, it is not. It's only the privileged who do
Mm-hmm.
yoga in India. Thankfully, now it has
Right.
changed and we have this thing.
Yeah.
But till even 10 years ago, poor person did not have access to yoga, right? I mean, though it's part of this
Mm-hmm.
land and we say yoga, but no, even today it's a very small population. So there's also
Right.
sadness and trauma there in yoga for us, as compared to someone from outside who sees it as something new and they can take it on much easier. So
Right.
sometimes
Yeah.
for us, it might be easier to connect to Isis and, all these foreign Artemis, and, there's this whole culture now of
Mm.
all these. And our own goddesses might invoke trauma in us, because it is part of, yeah, and a foreign person connects more to Kali and Durga because they don't have ancestral
Yeah.
trauma connected to these. So it's easier to go here, but that is temporary. That has to be temporary. If we have to really
Right.
do our inner work, we have to come back to our own line and very specific to our own ancestry. And
Yeah.
all our
Yeah.
ancestries individually
True.
have very specific goddesses, devis. And it's not even goddess. West give this word goddess, but in India it is not goddess. Devi is a very different
Yeah.
concept. Shakti is very different than what a
Right.
goddess is. Yeah. So
True.
so we have to go back into our own line and see what rests in my line and what did I lose, or how did she get distorted, because then I also got distorted in the same way. So her story is also
Mm-hmm.
my story. So when I discover her, I also discover me. Yeah, so it's like this
Mm-hmm.
huge process of uh, remembering. That's one of the core work that I talk
Yeah.
about. We've already
Yeah.
dismembered, now we are beginning to do the remembering,
Right.
bringing all
Right.
parts of ourselves, and then we have to weave it. We can't be fragmented, we can't be split personalities. Then we need to
Right.
integrate these different parts we are unearthing, so we become whole. you know
Right.
so that's kind of the journey.
Also, I think trauma work is one of the things that's a very difficult part of any energy work, any awakening process, any spiritual path. So I think when a lot of trauma is being unraveled, in women whom you're working with or your own, we tend to embody so much of what is ours and other through other people and through their journey. And we don't know how we just we channel the collective unconsciousness. Like, I don't know, for me it has been a very long process of being a channel. And I know how it can just awake with some movie that I'm watching, and somebody suddenly I meet with, or it's very raw, it's very organically, it'll happen. It's not something you can do anything about, or you can just sit and heal it. So, in your work now, since you're already a pioneer of so many other lives also, so how do you deal with that trauma, or how do you actually balance it out in your life with whether it's other people's that you must be embodying, or your own, like because our own is enough as it is. So how do you deal with that part of the
Right.
work?
I was listening to this very phenomenal psychotherapist in today's research world. His name is Basa van der Kolk. His book,
Mm-hmm.
When Body Keeps a Score, is like the most, I think, what, I don't know what the word is, but in trauma world, in trauma awareness, it's like the cutting edge book. It brings together research of 40, 50 years of his life's work. So I was listening to him the other day, and he spoke about this difference between empathy and compassion. And I've never heard that before, so he said that as a therapist, as someone holding space, you can't, empathy is not the emotion, because empathy is about sharing what the other feels. And we get drawn into their story.
Right.
And very soon you're fighting for someone else's cause. You've moved out of your own, you're so immersed with the other. And that's empaths. We have so many empath, and children are very empathetic because they don't know their own separation, right? And compassion is different. Compassion is, you can hold it there, you can see that, and you can also down regulate your own self as it is happening. And I think that is something that it doesn't just happen. It is a everyday, every moment work of really showing up for your own self, in your own integration, in your own trauma, and really giving it the time, like almost 7 or 8 years ago, I started using the word slow down. Anyone who has attended my workshop in 2014, 2015 will know that's all I spoke about. Slow down, slow down. You have to slow down. And because I realized that I was so fast paced, I had to slow down. And the only way I could slow down, I had to be broken. My life had to come crashing down. I had to come on the ground to that extent because I was just not ready to pause,
Yeah.
And then when you're on the floor, you see it all. And it is not an easy process. It is not easy. It is down in the dungeons kind of work.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
But that's the only way. You
I
have
know.
to move through that, and you have to really start looking at all aspects of your own life, And trauma, like when we say trauma, today trauma is used in so many different ways, but what trauma really means is not what happened to you. It is what still lives in you. So when trauma is activated, your cognition goes offline. Your neocortex, where your thinking brain, the meaning-making brain, the ability to understand, it goes offline. And what really gets activated is your primal brain, the brainstem and the limbic system, which is the animal, the old primitive mammalian emotional brain. That's what. So then what becomes present is sensations, emotions. And so anything you were looking at someone, their sound, the way they look at you, can even affect you. So we don't even realize. You go to a workshop, a yoga workshop, great teacher, and then they make these sounds, or or some sound they make, and it can trigger trauma because that is in your, you don't know what it is, but your body can get triggered because it is connected to some sound as a child somewhere in your trauma, or a smell. So these are things that people have to really start becoming aware of. When you say your work is trauma aware, you become aware of your own gesture. So when somebody is reacting, you have to go towards them and not take it personally, but you have to be able to say, that's where you have to have compassion of that separation, and to be able to say, what's going on? What did I do that is causing that for you? And it's not like you're doing it consciously. You might not even know. I'm in a yoga training workshop right now, and I have an instructor, very young man, beautifully leads. So, but I can see how it can trigger for somebody. And it's just his thing, and the way he will laugh, he will put you on the hold on some position, and he will laugh. And he's doing it very innocently. But for someone who has trauma in their system, that could be a big activation, and they will not maybe come back. These are things in India we don't realize, because we have kept our trauma so much pressed inside. And the way we have survived is by conforming. I'll adjust, Madi. We say, adjust. We adjust. We
Right.
are of any culture in the world, we adjust. Because imagine
Oh.
700 years of being ruled by someone else, we survived by adjusting. Oh, you don't like my ritual? I will change it. So then, you don't
Oh.
have to feel bad. You don't like this? I will
Hmm.
change this. I will make it. We do that all the time. We don't even realize
Yeah.
it. How much we do
Yeah.
it. We change our names. Oh, you cannot pronounce my name. I will make it short so you can say, do you ever see a white person or anybody, who ever do that? No.
No.
A European ever do that? They have complicated it. No, but we will do. Krishnamurti is difficult. Chris. You call me Chris. So it's a name you understand. I will fit into that. This is, but now it is
Yeah.
like the present generation, the young generation which is coming now. They're becoming very
Mm-hmm.
aware of this. They want to keep everything. So then suddenly there is more that they have to really face. And
Yeah.
when you choose
Yeah.
not to conform, then suddenly you have to look at a lot of things, and I think for me that was a thing. I was never ready to conform. So as a whole teenage and
Mm-hmm.
I think 20s and 30s was a rebel. So activist and angry and fighting everyone at the drop of a hat, to really
Yeah.
seeing that it's the integration is within me.
Right.
You are
Right.
not my trigger, I am my trigger.
True. True.
And recognizing what is getting activated in me, and that sometimes it takes time, like women's, you have
Yeah.
attended my the women's in the navigation, no? So when you're once you hit 40 and you're moving, there's something, suddenly there's a separation. You're able to see, what's
Yeah.
yours
Yeah.
and what's mine, and mine I will work on.
Mm.
Yours you take care, I'm not responsible for yours. Yeah,
Yeah.
so these
Yeah.
things, I think that's also age and maturity, and there's so many things part of it. But sometimes we are aging but we are not maturing. Just
Mm-hmm.
aging is not maturing. Aging needs to bring integration, and you
Right.
need to know your own rights and wrong, not what you have given by your culture, or you need to stand in them in your own authority. And
Right.
that, when you start doing that, that is when hell breaks loose, because you everything is in you. You have to see all of it. That
Yeah.
crazy person is not there, but it also lives in me, and I hate this crazy person in me. And so when I
Right.
suppress it here, I also suppress you, because I cannot stand you, because you are also in me, and I don't let that
Mm-hmm.
me come out. So I think it's that process of, I think
Awareness. I think it's,
I
yeah, it's awareness. It's first of all knowing ourselves, and then obviously identifying
yes,
parts of the other person who, who's active in me and
yeah,
triggers my own trauma, and then being able to work with it on
yes,
an everyday level, like everyday basis.
every
Because
moment,
yeah, because
yeah,
every day new things will come up, because I'm like a whole big
yes,
like a big entity. It's not like, I'm in fragments or I can be dealt with
yeah.
quickly. No. Yeah, I know that
No, it's
that
not
process.
possible.
I have been there.
Yeah,
I know it's not easy. I know that.
yeah, and it's
So
it's never it's not going to end. Yeah,
yeah.
it's a never-ending
So
process. Yeah,
I always thought that it was me who was thinking that, we Indians are like this, that we want to compromise, that we have more suppressed emotions in us, more undealt desires, and especially women, obviously. So, I have this whole anger, and in fact, I also have this theory that, because we idealize Ramayana so much, obviously, like you said,
yeah,
it is very us. So, we think we have to be the Sita, the sacrificing one. She gives away her life, and so somehow Ramayana pains me a lot. It brings a lot of trauma in me. So now in the lockdown, when so many versions of the Ramayana were, filmed again, it brought out so many undealt emotions in me. And I couldn't have the words to tell my family that people don't watch it, okay? Like, really don't watch it. I couldn't obviously say it, but so I always thought that it was me. Like,
right.
I was having an agenda. It was my personal issue. I always kept thinking that, okay? And for me, I have this whole theory that, for the very same reason why you should not be like Sita, is because, look at her life, you know, she didn't have her own life, people. Like, can't you see it? She gave away a life in the end and not live practically on earth because of the same reasons that you want to be like her. So I don't know. So that means I'm not the only one who's thinking like this, and maybe you know there is some validation of trauma coming from our scriptures, and you know this notion that we have to be like the Ram, the Sita, or you know something like that.
Yeah, and I have a different take from what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
So I see Sita as one of the most powerful women in our Puranas. But
Okay.
I don't want to be Sita. I want to be Rekha.
Right.
Sita lived her life. She lived her life. She never regretted her life. She lived her life on her own terms. She's actually more
True.
powerful than Ram. Yeah,
Right.
she chooses at every point. Ram is a weak person. He's very weak. At a drop of a hat, he cries. He's one of the most vulnerable feminine mans you can think of.
Right.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
not like
True.
Krishna. He is very feminine. Sita was a
Yeah.
strength. She was ready
Mm-hmm.
to go to the forest. I want to come. She was the one who was there. When Hanuman reaches Lanka and says, "Come with me, I will rescue you." Today's woman would jump. Okay, take me out of here. I don't. She said, "No, I'm not coming. My husband has to come. He has to come with the army
Mm-hmm.
and do this." She chose.
Mm-hmm.
She chose to stay there. She chose to stay put. So she had her agenda and
Mm-hmm.
she was following her lifeline. Rama was following
Mm-hmm.
his life. So I
Mm-hmm.
cannot follow Rama's life or Sita's life or Draupadi's life. I want to follow my life. That we have forgotten.
Yeah.
We don't have to be Krishna or Rama. We have to be us. Their life is
Yeah.
showing us that they live their life 100% in their body as human beings. When they were angry,
Yeah.
they were angry. When they were jealous, they were jealous. When they had to fight, they fought. When they had to be, so they lived their life. Every character from Mahabharata, everyone lived their life. Krishna was not
Yeah.
creating
Yeah.
following and doing marketing of himself. He never did that. What
Yeah.
came in that moment, he showed up in that moment. Every character. But
Right.
I am
Right.
not. I'm looking at Krishna and saying, I have to be like Krishna. Or I have to be like
Mm.
this. No. Or I have to learn that in this moment, I show up as me, in my authenticity. What
Mm.
is that for me? That we have forgotten. And that is
Yeah.
because, we never had that option, and I feel now we have. And
Mm.
we have to really start looking at the authority of women in all our stories. They are very powerful women, and many of the causes
Yeah.
of the entire war is women, not men.
Yeah. Yeah.
Men were
Yeah.
really used by women. Some of these women have been very manipulative, who you see even as great
Yeah.
power. They have been manipulative, and it's not even manipulative. They just did what they had to do. And
True.
so
True.
we also show up like that. So for me, the take is very different. The
Right.
journey is very different. So it's
So
about
I
me
think,
living my life.
yeah, no, actually, I like your take because it definitely makes sense that, you know, we don't have to try and embody somebody else, you know, which is what we keep doing to ourselves. You know, we keep telling ourselves that we watch these
Correct.
stories and then we tell ourselves that, look how strong she was, you know, let's try and be like them. Let's, instead of taking inspiration from them, we try to be like them, you know, which is
Correct.
not possible,
Yeah.
obviously.
Not
So what
possible.
I'm also trying to understand here is that trauma obviously has been created by us. It's not coming from any of these, you know, ancient Indian, whatever, you know, stuff. Like you said, that um, Indians natively, you know, we didn't have so many concepts. You know, we eventually evolved into or created those things to satisfy ourselves. Like, you know, maybe God was just a stone. So, you know, we came out with patriarchy and matriarchy and so much more, you know, like finding reasons and, you know, suppressing certain parts of ourselves and, you know, allowing and, you know, glorifying the other parts of ourselves. So I think
Right.
it's not about trauma didn't live in history. It lives in us right now. And we carry it
Yeah.
because
It
of, you
lives
know,
in our
obviously
body.
my
Yeah.
line. Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
because, obviously, because of my line, you know,
Right.
like my line of women or, you know,
Yeah.
men. It obviously could be men. So
Yeah.
whatever they were carrying, they, you
Yes.
know, passed
Definitely.
it on. And so I could be carrying a lot of trauma. So it's really about me and my, you
Yeah.
know, maybe my ancestry. So it's not about history or it's not
Yeah.
about anything else. Yeah. So I think healing it
No.
also has to
And
start with
it's,
me.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
correct.
Because
And
it's
many
easy
of
to
them have
blame.
used this scriptures. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. It's
so
easy to
that is
blame.
where, no, there is this There is what's her name, Brené Brown.
Yeah,
She says,
vulnerability.
she defines blame. She says that blame in research, it means a way to discharge, like when blame is, to discharge pain and discomfort. So that is when we do blame. It is a way to
Mm,
discharge pain and discomfort. When we don't want to go into our own pain and discomfort, we blame. So
right.
that is how blame is defined in research. So it's very, so when people are blaming in that moment, they do not have access to go into their own system, and the only way they
Yeah,
can exist is by blaming, because it's a temporary, it allows them to not go there where they really need to go. So, and
right.
so blame
Yeah,
also has to be held space, because it's a coping strategy for so many
true,
people
true.
in trauma. It's a coping strategy. Yeah.
So tell me, I mean, in all these years of your, journey, education, seeking, practice, what is that one core learning, that you hold on to, or that's very close to your heart, or that one aha moment that, you want to look back and, savor? It could be a learning, it could be a message, it could be, I don't know, it could be whatever.
I'm changing every moment. So even what I told you now, I have no guarantee that tomorrow it's going to be true.
Right.
And I'm open to that. I'm
Absolutely.
open to being,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the thing. That is, so when things are not going my way, I can release my hands and say, I walk your way. I can say that to the universe. And that
Yeah.
gives me, like, things don't work. You plan for a meeting, you plan this, and everything falls. And now I'm so grateful. Like, if my car doesn't work a day,
Hmm.
today I started my car, is I know that there is a reason. I don't even want to understand it. I just relax. I don't take the car. I say I'm not coming, because I
Yeah.
trust the universe. I feel this time, I think, if
Yeah.
not now, if you don't wake up and realize that somebody else is running the show here, we
Yeah.
have missed the point. Someone else can put
Yeah.
the entire world in one place,
Yeah.
level the ground. That is just this universe. There's something, nature,
True.
nature. So I think that's my thing. I surrender very fast to nature. I let
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
I don't question good, bad, everything is, that is my
Yeah.
learning, that I'm changing. That is one thing
Yeah.
I have to remember. uh, you know
Right.
I have to keep reminding myself all the time.
Mm.
So then, you don't hold on what is happening. They are changing. So it's not just me, I am changing. I know you are changing.
Yeah.
I know everyone in my life is changing. So so if something happened today, I don't want to hold on to it tomorrow, because I feel it's a new day and I can meet you differently. I can
Yeah.
see you differently. Even if you did something to me yesterday, today I know you have also moved, I have also moved. And from there, I want
Right.
to meet you, not from where I was yesterday.
Right.
So I think
Yeah.
that is one of the biggest things for me.
Right.
Yeah.
I relate to that because it's like I read this book. I think the author was Richard Bach. Illusions. The name of the book is Illusions.
Illusions.
So yeah,
Yeah,
and the
Richard
last
Bach.
the last sentence in the book, okay, like it's a big chapter. I mean, it's a whole chapter, and he says, "All what I said in this book is an illusion."
Yeah, I
and
know.
wh-
Forget it.
and it's like I'm like, what the hell? Like, I read that when I was in
Yeah,
college, okay? So all this was so new. But
yeah.
now when I look back, I think that was an amazing
True.
book. So, so
Yeah,
true. Like, everything is
true.
changing. Everything is an illusion. Whatever we
Everything
want to
is.
believe right now works for us, but tomorrow it can be an illusion.
Completely. That's why, we come back to
Yeah.
our experience. That's why in the word Sanatana, in the Indian, if there is anything called Hindu, in the Sanatana thing, it's based on my truth. It's based
Oh.
on my truth and my experience. That is Sanatana. To walk that path of my truth. So I honor your truth, and I can meet you in
Mm.
your truth, and you meet me in my truth. So there is no one truth. That was the wisdom of this land. That
Wow.
was, if you really get to meet those scenes, that's the wisdom, and
Right.
it's my truth. You have to come back to my experience, because I can only begin there. That's only true to me. You can tell me whatever,
Yeah.
but what is true to me is what's true to me. It doesn't, that's why when people are, that's why I think knowing trauma, all this, you realize that
Yeah.
truth is
Yeah.
so different. It is so personal.
Yeah.
And if
So
we cannot
true.
hold space for that, then we don't hold space for the person. We
Yeah.
miss the person, and then we miss connection. And I feel that the whole purpose of being in this body is to experience connection.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that we have as a gift, a
Yeah.
choice, and to really experience connection, and to be aware of, I am experiencing connection. Like
True.
I'm
True.
experiencing you
Absolutely.
looking at me, and like that is
Yeah.
human. You know,
Yeah.
that is why we are here, right? So I think, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
juiciness of being here.
True.
Yeah.
Okay. So one last question. Um, any message or
Okay.
anything you'd like to say to our audience? I mean, it need not be a message. Just something that comes to you before we close it.
I would say stop being nice. Be
Yeah.
yourself. Stop being nice. It's outdated. It doesn't look, it is, yeah, stop being nice. Just be
Yeah.
yourself.
Oh my God, I think we all need this. Like, what a nice thing to say. Seriously,
And
like
I,
we
but
are.
even the word nice, right, is it flattens
Yeah,
the
I mean,
field. It's not. It's, yeah. We are not
yeah,
flat. We are also different.
yeah, yeah.
Like
I
it's,
hear you. I
yeah.
really hear you. Because seriously, I think this is something, you know, pleasing others is also very Indian. I think we constantly want to
Yeah.
please people around us, and that's why we want to be nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, this
And
whole
that's how
thing
we
has so much.
survived, no?
Yeah,
Yeah. That's how we survived. And so we have to always honor that.
mm,
The strategies we have used, whether it's drug or alcohol, when we are coming off it, we cannot condemn it. That's a very sacred
mm,
place. Or being nice. It has so if you don't, then when you see somebody being nice, you're gonna get irritated.
anger,
So you have
anger
to give it a
management.
sacred place.
Yeah,
You have
yeah,
to, so if your part, everything that I have moved through, which doesn't serve me now, but it did serve me sometime. And I have a very
yeah,
sacred place for it. So when I see
yeah,
someone else in that, I'm not going to judge them, because I know it's serving them right now. And it may not serve
yeah,
them all the time. So I
yeah,
think that is also nice. Stop being nice, but also know what nice has done for you and for your ancestors, for my ancestors. Being nice has supported
yeah.
me in many situations of my life. So I think,
Wow. Yeah, that's a way of looking at it. Hmm. Great. So it was so wonderful having you. Thank you so much, Rekha, for spending time and
thank
speaking
you
with
so
us
much
in
for,
length about so many things. Great. So
and
with this,
yeah, and thank you, Purva, for, for this space. Yeah. So yeah, please
yeah,
go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, with this message, I think it's a very good message to conclude this little interview with. That stop being nice, be who you are, be the real you. Try to embrace and just
I think my
express the real
connection.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you again.